I tried it. It's delicious, she said. That afternoon, I understood that poison doesn't always come in dark bottles. Sometimes it arrives in fine china teacups, served with a perfect smile and flawless manicured nails. My name is Rachel Smith. I'm 59 years old, and this is the story I kept as a sacred secret for months, until life itself delivered justice. It all began on a May afternoon, the kind that smells like gardenias and freshly baked bread. My daughter-in-law, Chloe, had insisted on hosting a tea party at my house, in the backyard where I'd grown jasmine for 30 years. "Mom, I want it to be special," she told me on the phone that morning. Her voice was sweet, almost syrupy. "I'll invite my mom, too. It would be wonderful for you two to get to know each other better." I should have seen it coming. But when you want to believe in goodness, you close your eyes to the signs. That afternoon, Chloe arrived 2 hours early. She brought a huge bag from Saks Fifth Avenue, and that smile that always made me nervous, the one she used when she wanted something. "I brought everything, Mom. Don't worry about a thing. Today, I'm spoiling you." She set herself up in my kitchen as if it were hers. She took out china cups I didn't recognize, imported cookies, a 3-layer cake from an expensive bakery in Beverly Hills. Everything seemed perfect, too perfect, while she prepared the tea. I arranged the chairs in the garden. I could hear her moving in the kitchen, opening drawers, searching for things. At one point, I heard the unmistakable sound of her Louis Vuitton bag opening, a zipper, a small bottle. "Do you need help, sweetie?" I asked from the doorway. She jumped. For a second, I saw something in her eyes. Fear, maybe, or guilt. No, Mom. I'm almost done. Go sit down. My mom will be here any minute." Mrs. Davis arrived 15 minutes later, an elegant woman of 67, always perfumed and with that air of superiority that made me feel small. It was obvious where Chloe got that coldness disguised as courtesy. The three of us sat under the bougainvillea. The afternoon sun painted everything gold. Chloe served the tea with a radiant smile. First she served her mother, then me, and finally herself. "Cheers to the strong women of this family," Chloe said, raising her cup. But I noticed something. The cup she gave me had a tiny chip on the rim, an almost invisible imperfection. Her mother's cup was flawless. 30 years of marriage taught me to read the little things. My late husband, Isaac, always said, "Rachel, you have an eagle eye for details." Something wasn't right. "Try it. It's delicious," Chloe told me, pointing insistently at my cup. Mrs. Davis had already taken a long sip. This is good, Chloe. What kind of tea is it?" "Imported green tea, Mom, from Japan. Very healthy." I lifted my cup, brought it to my lips, and at that moment, I saw Chloe's reflection in the porcelain. She was watching me with an intensity that chilled my blood. In that instant, I knew. I don't know how or why, but I knew. "Oh, excuse me, sweetie," I said, putting the cup down on the table. "I think I made a mistake. This cup has a chipped rim. I'm afraid I'll cut myself. Let me get another one from the kitchen." I stood up and picked up my cup and Mrs. Davis's cup. "No, Mom, I'll go." "Don't worry, sweetie. I'll be back in 2 seconds." I went into the kitchen. My heart was pounding like a war drum. I did something I never thought I would do, something that to this day I question whether was right. I swapped the contents of the 2 cups. The one that was meant for me, I poured into Mrs. Davis's cup. The one she had half drunk, I kept for myself. When I returned to the garden, Chloe's eyes were fixed on me. "Ready?" I said with a smile. "Here we go. Cheers." I took a sip from Mrs. Davis's original cup. It tasted normal. Green tea with a hint of honey. Chloe relaxed her shoulders. "Cheers," she repeated, but her eyes remained fixed on the cup her mother now held. Mrs. Davis took another long drink. "It's delicious, honey." 5 minutes passed. We talked about trivial things, the weather, a cousin's wedding, grocery prices. And then it happened. Mrs. Davis put her hand to her stomach. Her face turned pale. "Chloe, I feel sick." "Sick how, Mom?" "My stomach. Something is hitting me really hard." Mrs. Davis doubled over with a groan. Then another. "Mom." Chloe jumped up. The panic on her face was real. This was not in her plan. "Mom, call an ambulance." I ran inside. I dialed 911, my voice trembling. "My guest is very sick. Severe abdominal pain. 22 River Creek Drive, Maplewood." When I returned, Mrs. Davis was on the garden floor, writhing. Chloe was crying, but in her eyes there was something more than worry. There was terror. The paramedics arrived in 10 minutes. They took Mrs. Davis away on a stretcher. Chloe got into the ambulance with her. Before she left, she looked at me from the door, and in that moment we both knew. I knew what she had done, and she knew that I knew, but neither of us said a word. I was left alone in the garden. The 3 cups were still on the table, mine, Mrs. Davis's, Chloe's. I took the one that was originally mine, the one Mrs. Davis had now consumed. I smelled it carefully. Green tea, honey, and something else. Something slightly bitter that shouldn't have been there. I sealed that cup in a plastic bag. I hid it in the back of my closet. I didn't know if I would ever need it, but a voice inside me told me to keep it. I couldn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, wondering what kind of woman was capable of poisoning her own mother-in-law in her own garden, and wondering, too, what kind of woman I was, who had switched the cups without a second thought. Sometimes we trust the wrong people too much. Have you also been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read them. Before everything shattered, my life with Chloe was normal. Or at least that's what I wanted to believe. I met my daughter-in-law 4 years ago when my son Stephen brought her to dinner one Sunday. It was June. I remember I made my famous brisket, my late husband Isaac's favorite dish, a way of honoring his memory, I suppose. Chloe arrived in a flawless white dress and sky-high heels. She kissed my cheek, leaving a coral lipstick mark I had to wipe off later. She smelled like expensive perfume from Saks. "Mrs. Smith, it's an honor to meet you. Stephen says wonderful things about you." Her smile was perfect. Too perfect, like one from a society magazine. Stephen was radiant. My son, my only son, with that look of a man in love that disarms any mother. He was 32 then, working as an architect at a major firm downtown. He was a good man, honest, hard-working, just like his father. "Mom, Chloe studied interior design at a top school," he told me while pouring the wine. "She has incredible taste." "Oh, Stephen, you're making me blush," she replied, touching her hair. That night, Chloe praised every corner of my house. The paintings I inherited from my mother, the mahogany dining table Isaac and I bought on our first anniversary. Even the linen curtains I had picked out myself at an antique market downtown. "Rachel, you have a natural talent for decorating. This house is a gem." She made me feel seen, valued, something I hadn't felt since Isaac died 3 years earlier. Maybe that's why I let my guard down. The wedding was 8 months later. A grand ceremony at the manor, 200 guests, imported flowers, a wedding dress that cost more than my first car. Mrs. Davis, Chloe's mother, handled almost everything. She was a widow, too, but of a man who had left her properties in Beverly Hills and a bank account that let her live without worry. "Rachel, let me take care of the flower arrangements," she told me one afternoon over coffee at her 3-story house. "You've worked enough in your life. It's time for you to rest." It sounded generous, but there was something in her tone that made me feel as if my lifetime of effort didn't have the same value as her inherited money. Still, I smiled and accepted. I wanted Stephen to be happy, and Chloe made him happy. Or so I thought. The first 2 years of marriage were calm. Stephen and Chloe lived in an apartment in Silver Lake. I visited them every 2 weeks, always bringing something: a lemon pie, casseroles, chicken soup when it was cold. "Mom, you shouldn't have," Chloe would say, taking the containers. But I noticed how she left them on the kitchen counter without opening them, as if they were a burden. Stephen, on the other hand, dove for the food like a kid at Christmas. "Mom, nobody cooks like you." "I swear." Chloe would smile, but I saw how she clenched her jaw. Things started to change when Isaac Sr., my father-in-law, my late husband's father, passed away a 1.5 years ago. He left this house, the house where I'm sitting now, the house with the jasmine garden, And the bougainvillea I planted myself. The will was clear. The property was mine as long as I lived. Afterward, it would pass to Stephen. It was an old but beautiful house in an area that had become extremely valuable. Real estate developers started knocking on my door, offering absurd amounts of money. "Ma'am, we're offering $2 million cash. You could be living anywhere you want in a week." I always refused. This house had a soul. I raised Stephen here. I cooked thousands of meals for Isaac here. I mourned his death here and learned to live alone. It wasn't a property. It was my history. But for Chloe, it was an investment. "Mom, have you ever thought about selling?" The question came 3 months after Grandpa's funeral. We were in my kitchen. I was making iced tea. Chloe was flipping through a real estate magazine. "Selling?" "No, sweetie, this house is my home." "Yes, of course. But it's so big for you all alone, and it requires maintenance. Wouldn't a modern apartment be more comfortable? With an elevator, private security? I'm comfortable here." Yes. I only mention it because, well, Stephen and I are thinking of having a baby soon, and a bigger house would be nice. But obviously without a down payment, it's difficult. There it was, the real reason. "Chloe, when I'm gone, this house will be Stephen's. That's what the will says." "Oh, Mom, don't talk like that. You're going to live for many more years. It's just that in this city, opportunities don't wait. If we could access that capital now." She didn't finish the sentence, but the message was clear. They wanted me out fast. From that day on, the visits became more frequent. But they weren't family visits anymore. Chloe would arrive with catalogs for assisted living residences. "Look how nice these are, Mom. They have gardens, activities, 24-hour nurses." "I don't need nurses." Of course. It's just in case. At your age, you never know." At my age, I was 58 then. I walked 5 miles a day. I cooked, I gardened, I read 3 books a month. I was not an old woman. But to Chloe, I was an obstacle with an expiration date. Stephen, my poor son, was caught in the middle. "Mom, Chloe just wants what's best for you," he'd say when I told him about the conversations. "She's worried." "Is she worried about me or about the house, Stephen?" He would fall silent, because deep down he knew it too. But love makes us ignore what we don't want to see. Still, I tried to keep the peace. I organized dinners. I called Chloe to ask how she was. I gave her a pearl necklace that had belonged to my mother as a gesture of affection. Chloe received it with a polite smile. "Thank you, Mom. It's vintage." Vintage. As if it were old and worthless. That night, when I got home, I sat in the kitchen and cried. Not for the necklace, but because I realized I would never be good enough for her. I wasn't Mrs. Davis with money and properties. I was just Rachel, the widow of a bank employee who worked his whole life to give his son a good future. And to Chloe, that had no value. As I tell this, I wonder where you're listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. But I kept trying, because when you're a mother, you cling to the hope that things will get better. Until that May afternoon arrived. The afternoon of the tea. The afternoon I understood that my daughter-in-law didn't just want me out. She wanted me eliminated. The day after the tea, Mrs. Davis was discharged from a hospital. Severe food poisoning. The doctor said, probably something she ate that was spoiled. They prescribed fluids, rest, and a bland diet. Chloe called me that afternoon. Her voice sounded tired, but there was something else. Something forced. "Mom, the doctors say it was a cake. It seems it was bad. What a shame. But, well, my mom is already better. What a relief, sweetie. Give her my best." Yes. Hey, one thing. Did you save any of the tea? The cups? The cake? Anything. My heart stopped for a second. No, sweetie. I threw everything out after you left. Why? Silence. No, for no reason. Just asking. Well, I'll let you rest. Thanks for everything. She hung up before I could say goodbye. I stared at the phone. Chloe was looking for evidence. She wanted to know if I had kept anything that could incriminate her. The cup was still hidden in my closet, wrapped in a plastic bag with the contents intact. 2 weeks passed. Stephen didn't call. Not once. That wasn't normal. My son called me every 2 days without fail, even if it was just to ask how I'd slept. The silence hurt more than any word. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I dialed his number. Hello, Stephen. Honey, how are you? Oh, Mom. Hi. His voice sounded distant. I haven't heard from you in 2 weeks. Is everything okay? Yeah. We've been really busy. Chloe has been taking care of her mom. Of course, I understand. And how are you? Fine, Mom. Look, I'm in a meeting. Can I call you back later? Of course, honey. He never called back. The third week, Mrs. Davis appeared at my door. She didn't ring the bell. She was just there when I opened it to get the newspaper, standing on my porch wearing dark sunglasses and an Hermes scarf. Rachel, we need to talk. It wasn't a request. It was an order. I let her in. I offered her coffee. She refused. She sat in my living room as if she were appraising a property. Her eyes scanned every painting, every piece of furniture, every detail. Nice house, she said finally. Very cozy. Cozy. The word polite people use when they mean outdated. Thank you, Mrs. Davis. What can I help you with? She took off her glasses. Her eyes were tired, but there was a hardness in them I hadn't seen before. I came to talk about what happened at the tea. My stomach tightened. It was terrible. Thank God you're better. Yes, terrible. She paused. Rachel, did you switch the cups that day? The world stopped. I'm sorry. The cups. You went into the kitchen with 2 cups and came out with 2 cups. But I could swear the one you gave me afterward was not the same one I had before. I stayed very still, like a rabbit in front of a predator. Mrs. Davis, I don't understand what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm asking directly. We stared at each other. 2 women, 2 mothers, 2 completely different worlds. I didn't switch anything. I lied. Maybe the shock of the moment, the scare. She didn't believe me. I saw it in her eyes. She stood up, walked to the window overlooking the garden, the same window where the tea table had been. My daughter has been very nervous lately, she said without looking at me. She says you look at her strangely, that she feels you're judging her. I would never. Chloe is a good woman, Rachel. An excellent wife. Stephen is lucky to have her. I know. She just wants what's best for her family, for her future. Is that so wrong? There it was. The real message. Of course not. I'm glad we agree. She turned to me. Because it would be terrible if a misunderstanding caused problems between you and your son. Families should stick together, don't you think? It was a threat disguised as motherly advice. Chloe mentioned you've been offered very good money for this house. It's not for sale. Everything is for sale, Rachel. It's just a matter of finding the right price. She walked to the door. Before leaving, she stopped. Oh, and one more thing. The doctors found traces of an industrial laxative in my blood analysis. Something highly concentrated. It could have been fatal if the dose had been higher. My blood ran cold. How horrible! I managed to say, yes, horrible. Thank goodness it was my system that received it and not someone else's. Someone delicate. Someone with heart problems. For example, I have an arrhythmia. Chloe knew that. Everyone knew. Thank goodness, I repeated. Mrs. Davis smiled, a smile as cold as ice. Take good care of yourself, Rachel. At our age, anything can happen. And she left. I stood paralyzed in my living room for an hour, maybe more. Mrs. Davis knew. She knew Chloe had tried to poison me. And instead of being horrified, instead of confronting her daughter, she was threatening me to keep quiet, because the house was worth millions, and I was the only obstacle. That night, I took the cup out of the closet. I looked at it under the lamplight. The contents had dried a bit, but they were still there. Should I go to the police? With what proof? A cup with dried tea, and my word against 2 high society women? And Stephen. If I accused his wife of attempted murder, I would lose him forever. My son, my only son. The reason I got up every morning since Isaac died. I put the cup away again. I hid it deeper this time, in an old shoe box behind winter coats I no longer used. and I made a decision. I wouldn't go to the police. Not yet, but I wouldn't be the silent victim they expected either. I started documenting everything. Every call, every visit, every comment about selling the house. I bought a small voice recorder on Amazon, one of those old-fashioned ones nobody would suspect. And I waited, because if I had learned anything in 59 years of life, it was this. The truth always finds its moment, and justice, even if it's late, always arrives. 2 days later, Stephen finally showed up. He arrived on a Sunday afternoon, alone without Chloe. He hugged me like he did when he was a boy, and for a moment, everything was okay. Sorry for not calling, Mom. Things have been complicated. I know, honey. It's okay. I made his favorite chili. His eyes lit up. We ate in silence for a while. He devoured the chili as if he hadn't eaten in days. I just watched him, my boy, my man, trapped between two women who loved him in very different ways. Mom, I have to tell you something. My heart sped up. Chloe is pregnant. The world stopped again. Pregnant. Yes, 2 months. We haven't told anyone yet. You're the first to know. I should have felt joy. I was going to be a grandmother. It was what I had always dreamed of, but all I felt was fear, because now I understood the urgency. Chloe didn't just want my house. She wanted me to disappear before that baby was born, so the child could grow up in my house, with my garden on top of my memories, and I wouldn't be there to see my grandchild grow. That's wonderful, honey. I managed to say, congratulations. Stephen smiled. He took my hand. You're going to be the best grandmother in the world, Mom. If only he knew. If only I could tell him that his wife had tried to poison me 3 weeks earlier, but I couldn't because I knew he wouldn't believe me. Chloe had won this battle, but the war was just beginning. I still wonder if I did the right thing by staying silent that day. What about you? What would you have done in my place? I decided to be the perfect mother-in-law. If Chloe wanted me to disappear, I would do the exact opposite. I would make myself indispensable, so helpful, so present, so loving that they would have no choice but to accept me. Or so I thought. A week after finding out about the pregnancy, I knocked on their apartment door with a huge basket. I brought everything: ginger tea for the nausea, saltine crackers, prenatal vitamins, a book on motherhood that had helped me when I was expecting Stephen. Chloe opened the door in her pajamas. She looked tired, had lost her usual shine. Mom, what a surprise. I came to spoil you, sweetie. I know the first few weeks are tough. Something passed through her eyes. Guilt, discomfort, I don't know. But she let me in. I made ginger tea while she sat on the sofa, her legs curled up. I told her stories about my own pregnancy, about how Isaac would bring me tacos at 3 o'clock in the morning, because I was craving them, about how Stephen would kick every time he heard Johnny Cash. Chloe smiled, a small smile, almost real. Stephen kicked a lot, like a soccer player. He wouldn't let me sleep, but every kick reminded me he was alive. It was the most beautiful thing in the world. I'm scared, she said suddenly. Her voice was almost a whisper. Of what, sweetie? Of not being a good mother. Of not knowing what to do. My mom was always so perfect. So in control. I don't know if I can be like that. For the first time, I saw a vulnerable woman behind the facade. A scared woman, just like I had been 33 years ago. Nobody is born knowing, Chloe. We all learn as we go, and you're going to do great. You have Stephen, and you have me. She looked at me intently. Despite everything? Despite what? She fell silent. She looked down at her teacup. Nothing. Forget it. But I knew what she meant. Despite the tea, despite the cups, despite the poison that almost killed me. She was waiting for me to say something, to confront her. But I didn't, because it was easier to pretend that nothing had happened, that we could start over. Denial is a powerful drug. From that day on, I became Chloe's shadow. I went to her doctor's appointments. I cooked her nutritious meals. I knitted booties and sweaters for the baby. I put up with her mood swings, her impossible cravings, her constant complaints. Mom, can you bring me some strawberries with chili? But make sure they're the organic ones from Whole Foods. I don't like the other ones. Of course, sweetie. I would drive 40 minutes to the specialty market, buy the exact strawberries, come back, take them to her. Chloe would try one, make a face. Ugh, I don't want them anymore. Just put them away. And I would smile. Don't worry, I'll put them away. Stephen was happy. His mom and his wife were getting along. His baby was on the way. His perfect life. Mom, you don't know how much it means to me that you're so involved. He'd tell me. Chloe adores you. I would nod, pretend to believe him. But at night, when I returned to my empty house, I would sit in the garden and cry. I cried for the woman I had been, the one who respected herself, the one who didn't let herself be walked all over. I was making myself small, invisible, harmless, all to keep my son close. In the 4th month of pregnancy, Mrs. Davis organized a baby shower in the garden of her 3-story house, with professional decorations, white and gold balloons, a dessert table that cost more than my monthly mortgage. I didn't organize anything. They didn't even ask for my opinion. I arrived with a modest gift, a wooden mobile I had found at a craft market. I had chosen it with love. It had hand-carved moons and stars. Chloe opened in front of all the guests. 50 elegant women I didn't know. Oh, how nice. Thank you, Mom. She set it aside. She kept opening other gifts, a bugaboo stroller, a new bassinet, clothes from European brands I didn't even know existed. One of Chloe's friends, a woman with long nails and Chanel sunglasses, approached me. You're Stephen's mom? Yes. Ah. Chloe told me you live in an incredible house. Colonial, right? In an area that's really appreciating. Yes. What luck. Those properties are worth gold. If I were you, I'd sell now while everything is at its peak. Developers are paying fortunes. She smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. Chloe had sent her to plant the idea, to pressure me. It's not for sale. I said firmly, oh, what a shame. Well, when you change your mind, let me know. I have excellent contacts. She gave me a card. Wendy Miller, luxury real estate agent. I put it in my purse, not out of interest, but as more evidence that the pressure was ongoing. That night, Stephen walked me to my car. Mom, are you okay? You seemed a little quiet. I'm fine, honey. Just tired. Are you sure? I looked at him. My boy. He wasn't a boy anymore. He was a 33-year-old man, a father-to-be, with responsibilities. But to me, he would always be my baby. Stephen, are you happy? The question caught him off guard. Of course, Mom. Why do you ask? I just want to be sure. He hugged me tightly. I'm the happiest man in the world. I have an incredible wife, a baby on the way, and the best mom in the universe. What more could I ask for? I should have felt peace, but all I felt was a deep emptiness, because my son was happy and alive, and I was holding that lie together with my own 2 hands. As I tell this, I wonder where you're listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. The following months were more of the same. I cooked, I cleaned, I cared for her, I served. Chloe treated me like a high-class maid. Mom, can you wash these bottles? Mom, can you iron these baby clothes? Mom, can you stay and keep me company while Stephen goes to work? I'm scared to be alone. And I said yes to everything, because I was afraid that if I said no, they would keep me away from this baby who wasn't born yet, but whom I already loved like crazy. One afternoon, while I was folding laundry in her bedroom, I found something, a folder hidden under some sweaters in the closet. I shouldn't have opened it. I know, but I did. Inside were documents, price quotes from real estate agents in my house, remodeling blueprints, budgets from construction companies. They had already planned everything, even the paint color for what would be the baby's room in my house, as if I no longer existed. I closed the folder. I put it back exactly where it was. I finished folding the clothes. When Chloe came back from the bathroom, I was smiling. Everything okay, Mom? Everything's perfect, sweetie. But something in me broke that day. A thin layer of ice I had been walking on for months finally cracked. I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't keep being small. I had to protect myself, even if it meant losing my son. Because I had realized something terrible. I was losing myself. And if I lost myself completely, there would be nothing left of me for the grandchild who was on his way. That night, I took out the teacup again. I placed it on my kitchen table. I looked at it under the light, and I made a decision. I wouldn't run anymore. I wouldn't make myself invisible. If Chloe wanted a war, she would get one, but mine would be silent, patient, and just because the truth, no matter how deep you bury it, always finds a way to bloom, like the jasmine in my garden, which returns every spring without asking anyone for permission. The first clue came by accident. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Stephen had asked me to stop by their apartment to water the plants because he and Chloe were going to Palm Springs for the weekend. A baby moon, he said. Thanks, Mom. You're an angel. I had a key to their apartment since they got married. For emergencies, they had said. I went in. I watered the plants. And as I was leaving, I saw Chloe's iPad on the dining room table. It was on. The screen was glowing. I shouldn't have looked. I know, but something stopped me. On the screen was an open chat, a WhatsApp group called The Power Players. Chloe, Mrs. Davis, and two other names I didn't recognize. The most recent message was from Mrs. Davis. Did you tell her about the residence in Pasadena? It's perfect for people her age. It has a garden and activities. She'll feel less alone. Chloe had replied, I've mentioned it 3 times. She refuses. Says a house is her life. Wendy, the agent from the baby's shower. There are ways to convince people. All legal. Guardianship due to incapacity. A good lawyer. A friendly psychiatrist, and boom, she's declared unfit to make decisions, and the son becomes a legal guardian. Mrs. Davis. Exactly. We did the same thing with Aunt Carmen. 6 months later, she was in a luxury nursing home, and we sold her house without any problems. Chloe, I don't know, Mom. Stephen would never agree to that. Mrs. Davis. Stephen will agree to whatever you tell him, sweetie. He always has. You just need to frame it right. Your mom is depressed. She's not taking care of herself. She's forgetting things. She's at risk. Once he sees it's for her own good, he'll sign whatever you want. Wendy. In the meantime, I'll prepare the sale. I have 3 interested buyers for that area. Cash, no financing. Quick and clean. Chloe, let me think about it. Stephen is so happy right now with the baby. I don't want to stress him out. Mrs. Davis. Think fast. The longer you wait, the harder it gets. And remember, that baby needs space. He needs a garden. He needs what's rightfully his. My hands were shaking so much I almost dropped the iPad. Guardianship. Declare me incompetent. Take away my rights. Lock me in a residence as if I were a senile old woman. And all legal. All for my own good. I took pictures of the screen with my phone. Screenshot after screenshot. Every message, every date. Then I turned off the iPad. I left it exactly where it was. And I got out of the apartment. I drove home on autopilot. I don't remember the route. I just remember that when I arrived, I ran to the bathroom and threw up, not from nausea, but from disgust, from betrayal, from the horror of knowing your own family is conspiring to steal your life. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed in the kitchen looking at the photos on my phone over and over. We did the same thing with Aunt Carmen. As if it were a recipe. As if destroying a person's life was something you plan with friends over coffee. The next day, I Googled guardianship due to incapacity in my state. I read for hours. Legal articles, real cases, forums of people who had gone through the same thing. I discovered it was easier than I thought. With 2 witnesses, a psychiatrist who declares you're unfit to manage your assets, and a judge who signs off, you lose everything. Your house, your money,